Ladies and gentlemen, I have a question for you. How did England and France end up in Canada? Think about that. It's not like people went to sleep, woke up the next day, and boom, oh, there's a country called Canada. Well, how did that get there? I don't know. Well, hey, let's just roll with it. Canada. Well, that's not how countries are formed. That's not how countries work. We need to talk about how did Canada become Canada? Well, who came to Canada? Who explored Canada? Who brought back good reports to the European countries that want to colonize that area? Think about it. We know that 75% of Canadians today speak English, and we know that 25% of Canadians speak French, mostly in Quebec. So we know England and France are involved, but how are they involved? Well, in order to answer that question, we need to start by studying the explorers. Who were the people who first explored Canada? What was their impact? Where did they explore? How does that affect what the European countries decided to do with that land in that area? And think about it. All the stuff that we're doing because we know that England and France are involved. This is kind of getting the ball rolling on getting to the French and Indian War. Because the French and Indian War is going to shape the North American continent for the future. But to get to that war, we first have to get to the explorers that first discovered the area and what England and France did as a result. All right? So, with that, let's start with our first explorer, Giovanni Caboto. Now, Giovanni Caboto was born in Italy in 1450, but by the 1490s, he's living in England. And since he's living in England, Giovanni, the English word for Giovanni, is John. And Caboto becomes Cabot. So John Cabot is how we know him in the English-speaking world, or the Anglophone world. If you are at home thinking, Anglophone, what is that? And that means that you have not watched the vocabulary video. So make sure you watch that video so you know what Anglophone means. But in the Anglophone world, he's John Cabot. Now, John Cabot, again, in the 1490s, he's in England. But ladies and gentlemen, question for you. What happened in 1492? Now, if you're sitting there going, I don't know what happened in 1492, then we weren't paying attention when we did the Age of Exploration, were we? Now, if you are at home and you're saying, wait a second, Columbus, in 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. You got it. Christopher Columbus is going to discover the New World in 1492. And remember what we said. That is going to be a paradigm shift for all the countries in Europe when they realize there's 2 new pieces of land and a bunch of islands that we didn't even know existed out in the Atlantic Ocean. Those could be new resources. If we colonize those areas, we can get those resources and bring them back to our home country, and that will make us rich. We can do all sorts of things with those resources. That is why this is important. And with Cabot living in England, he is going to ask permission of the King of England to be able to go and explore this area of North America under the English flag. So when he goes in 1496 to King Henry the VII, he gets permission. Now Cabot is thinking, and a lot of people were thinking at this time, because remember, 1496, that's only 4 years. I'm sure the video skipped, but that's because I had to sneeze, so I don't think you want to see that on camera. But 1496 is only 4 years after Columbus' discovery. So a lot of people were thinking, well, there still might be a water route that gets us to Asia. Because remember, Christopher Columbus, what was his reasoning? Christopher Columbus did not want to go around Africa to have to get to India. He didn't want to have to stop here in the Middle East and do the long, treacherous route on land to get to India and China. So remember, he sailed west because he didn't know about these huge continents to go the opposite way and get to Asia. Well, people like John Cabot were thinking, okay, well, he's discovered these 2 land areas. By the way, remember, it's not like they know how large these land areas are. So they just know that there's land, but they have no idea how huge. So they're thinking, well, maybe there's a northern water route, a strait, I'm talking about the geographic term, maybe there's a strait or an inlet, or not an inlet, but a river that will take us and connect us to Asia. Now, he doesn't know. We have the benefit of hindsight. We in the 21st century can look and go, no, there is no water route. Ladies and gentlemen, there is one water route, northern water route, that will take you to Asia. It's called the Arctic Ocean. There's only one problem. You die if you try to do that. All right, and here's the problem. If you're trying to get resources from Asia and bring them back to the mother country, death can't be in your plans. All right, so he doesn't know this. John Cabot doesn't know this. So he's looking for a northern water route. Now, he's not going to find one. We all know that. But where does he land? He lands on what we now know as the province of Newfoundland and Labrador. So, Mr. Cabot, in 1497, he sets sail for the New World. Cabot lands on either Labrador or Newfoundland. There's debate about it. I just like to go ahead and just say, hey, you know what? He landed on the province of what we now know as the province of Newfoundland and Labrador. I'll let other people sort out, was it the mainland Labrador? Was it the island Newfoundland? Was it another island in between? For us, he landed on Newfoundland and Labrador. And so he plants the English flag there and claims the land for England. Now, why is this important? Not so much the claiming the land for England, even though that is important. It's the fact that he goes back to King Henry the VII and tells King Henry the VII about this land. And that it basically gives the king a positive report. And this makes the king excited. And now the king wants to send more people to explore this area. Think about it. If Cabot dies in the exploration, if Cabot comes back and doesn't give a good report, maybe England says, maybe this isn't for us. This isn't a good place. This isn't worth our investment. This isn't worth the crown investing money and time into. Well, that would change the entire history of North America, and we might not be speaking English today. All right? So, luckily, Cabot does come with a good report. This makes the king very excited. And so, Cabot, once he gives the report, he was given permission in 1498 to return for another exploration of North America. But unfortunately, the 5 ships that he was given, most people believe they encountered a huge storm. 4 of those ships sank, only 1 made it back to the United Kingdom. And so, unfortunately, John Cabot dies. But what is his legacy? So even though he only made 1 trip, his legacy is that it sparks some excitement in the King of England. Excitement's not the best word, but basically it gets the king interested in the New World. It gets England interested in the New World and colonizing North America. Right? So that's John Cabot. Now, in the description box, there is a video on Henry Hudson. Henry Hudson is a guy, he's the reason why we have the Hudson Bay and the Hudson River and a lot of waterways that seem to have the word Hudson in it because of him. So we're going to take a look at his exploration. What did he accomplish in Canada as well? So Henry Hudson will also be he'll be flying the flag is what I meant to say. He'll be flying the flag of the Dutch as part of a Dutch company going to the New World, but then he'll also fly the flag of England while trying to discover a water route to Asia. So Henry Hudson, I want you to look at Henry Hudson. This video in the description box. I want you to type up 5 facts from that video that you learned about Henry Hudson. Okay? Now, this is not the end of the video because we have more to go. As I said, this video could be 30 minutes long if I didn't give you guys kind of a shortened version of a lot of the events that led to the exploration of Canada. So I'm giving you John Cabot, but I want you to look up Henry Hudson. And again, his video link will be in the description box. I want you to write 5 facts about Henry Hudson. After you do that, guess what? We're going to take a look at Samuel de Champlain on this video. Now, once you do Henry Hudson, there's going to be another video link in the description box, and that guy's name is going to be Jacques, Jacques, Cartier, Cartier. Jacques Cartier is to France what John Cabot is to England. Jacques Cartier is going to be the first explorer, French explorer. He's going to map a lot of the area. He's going to go down the St. Lawrence River. You need to watch that video of Jacques Cartier. And for Jacques Cartier, I want you to write down 7 facts that you learned from the video about Jacques Cartier. So again, now that we're done with John Cabot, look at the Henry Hudson video in the description box, look at the and write down 5 facts from the video, then watch the Jacques Cartier video in the description box, write down 7 facts. Once you do that, then let's get back to Samuel de Champlain, who is going to come after Jacques Cartier. All right? So Samuel de Champlain, assuming that you've done all that, you're back here at minute 10:53. Samuel de Champlain, right? So Champlain was born in France in 1574. As an adult, he sailed across the Atlantic with his uncle. So what's great about the fact that he sailed with his uncle as a young man, as a young adult, is the fact that he gained a lot of navigation experience, a lot of experience just in terms of a ship, how to run a ship, how to assess land. So he goes to the Caribbean with his uncle and comes back. Now, what happens with all that experience that he has? He is now part of a French expedition, if Mr. McGee can talk, expedition to go to North America. And so when he does that, by 1603, he sailed with a French expedition to North America, up the St. Lawrence River. By the way, remember, the St. Lawrence River starts at Lake Ontario. Starts at Lake Ontario and flows north. So when we say he goes up the river, he's actually going south, because remember, up means you're going against the flow of the river. All right, so he goes up the river. He is going to actually, my English is going away because apparently the French Quebec is getting in there. All right, so he's actually going to explore the Ottawa River Valley. He is actually going to, in another expedition that we'll talk about, he's going to end up setting up the city that we now know as Quebec City. But Lake Champlain is named for him. He discovers this lake, Lake Champlain. But a lot of his work, along with Jacques Cartier, a lot of the work that they did together is going to be very, very important in mapping the St. Lawrence River, understanding the Great Lakes area, and also being able to set the foundation for cities that we'll see like Montreal and Quebec City. So, and by the way, when it says up the St. Lawrence River and all the way to what is now Montreal, that's the key. He goes to the place that now we know that the city of Montreal is built on. All right, on another expedition in 1608, Champlain found a fort. And by the way, when we say found, it should say founded. He founded a fort, meaning he built a fort in the place that is now Quebec City. So it started out as a fort, a great place for defense, and also a place where fur traders could come as well. That fort is going to grow into a town as French men and women begin to show up from overseas, and then it will grow and grow and grow until eventually it becomes a city. So first of all, that's Champlain's legacy right there, is the fact that he is the founder of Quebec City, basically, if you want to think about it. But also it's his mapping of the Great Lakes area and the St. Lawrence River that's very, very important to France. And he also does one other thing. He makes allies with the Huron. So the Huron, by the way, if you're thinking Huron, where have I heard that before? Lake Huron, all right? The Huron are a Native American tribe. This Native American tribe needed help with a group of tribes called the Iroquois Confederacy. And so Champlain takes advantage of that. I mean, takes advantage in a good way. I don't mean takes advantage of them, but takes advantage of that by allying himself with the Huron and other Native American groups around the Great Lakes to fight against the Iroquois Confederacy. Now, if you're saying, what's the Iroquois? The Iroquois Confederacy was made up of 5 tribes. Some people say 6 tribes. I'm just going to say 5 tribes. So it was made up of 5 tribes: the Cayuga, the Seneca, the Onondaga, the Oneida, and the Mohawk. And if you're saying Mohawk, yes, that we get Mohawk from the Mohawk tribe, because the men in the Mohawk tribe had the sides of their head shaved, and had the hair going down the middle, hence why we call them Mohawk today, all right? So those 5 tribes were not the nicest people, were not the nicest tribes on earth. In fact, because they were united together, they did battle with a lot of the other tribes in the area, and they were the enemy of the Huron. So by Champlain helping out the Huron, even though he actually lost in battle with the Huron against the Iroquois, by helping the Huron and other other Native American groups out at that time, he actually builds alliances with those groups. And so that's going to make it easier for the French to be able to operate in what we know as Canada, as well as the Great Lakes area, because they have the friendship of a lot of the Native American tribes in that area. So the Huron, very important. So Champlain founds Quebec City, but then also builds alliances that we're going to see later on when we look at the French and Indian War. Now, the English, even though Champlain is named the head of the French colony at Quebec City, the English are going to attack it in 1629 and actually take over Quebec. So you're starting to see some skirmishes with the English, because even though we're not talking about the United States because our unit is focused on Canada, remember the English are building colonies on what we now know as the United States, but on the East Coast. And the English are also pushing their way into Canada, and there's some skirmishes and some battles that are going on at this time. So the English attacked and took Quebec in 1629. In 1632, Quebec was given back to France as part of a treaty. So Champlain, once Quebec goes back to France, Champlain again is made governor of Quebec, but by this time he's dealing with health issues, and so in 1635, on Christmas Day, it was awful, on Christmas Day, he dies. So what is his legacy? By the way, this is his statue. If you go to Quebec City, you will find the statue of Samuel de Champlain there. So what's his legacy? Well, his mapping of St. Lawrence River, his founding of Quebec City, and his alliances with the Indian tribes in the area, or Indian or Native American. So I switch back and forth. Either one's okay for you to use, all right? But his alliance with the Native American tribes in that area are going to be crucial for France as the fur trade business begins to grow in that area. So that's his legacy. Quebec City, and in a way almost founding Quebec itself, and the fact of his alliances with the Native American tribes made it a lot easier for France to operate in that area. So there you go. You know what your assignments are. We talked about those assignments in the middle. If you have any questions, let me know. All right? Take care, guys.